In this video, I'm going to do two problems with you. I am on page 27 in your Moving Up in Math book. The next few pages in the book, page 27 through 30, are some example problems using a window pane. Most problems in math, we do not really require you to use a window pane. However, on word problems, it comes in extremely handy, especially if you come across a word problem you're not really sure how to solve. So in that case, if from here on out, if you see a word problem and you're not sure how to solve it, set up a window pane like that are in the problems A through H on page 27 through 30. If you look at page 31, there are some keywords. I also have an anchor chart of my keywords located in the Google Classroom. So please make sure you go and reference that. Lots of really good information that will help you figure out these problems and whether you're add, subtract, multiplying, or dividing. Then if you look at page 32 through 33, those are some more problems. They're not really even asking you to solve them. They're asking you to identify what the operation is: add, subtract, multiply, or divide. So those are great problems to look at. Page 34 and 35, is it reasonable? They do have word or window panes set up. Those are more looking at identifying the operation, solving it, and then double checking your answer, making sure your answer makes sense for the problem. You know, you got to make sure you understand what the problem is saying about. Sometimes it's not always about the work and the numbers. It's really just understanding what the problem is asking and which answer choice makes the most sense. And that goes into page 36. Page 37 and 38 is, this page will be a grade, so make sure you have work shown. This is just checking reasonableness. So you're looking at different problems, and when it asks about reasonableness, a lot of times we can estimate and round. Sometimes we have to work it out. Sometimes we can just cross off answer choices that just do not make sense at all for the problem. And then page 39 through page 41 are some more example problems, great word problems to work out. I would definitely take a look at them. I would not suggest, you don't have to do, there's a total of 18. You do not need to do all 18. I would pick at least 3 or so from each page just to make sure you understand, you know what you're doing. There will also be answer keys located for these around the room. And then page 42 through 43, this is definitely a grade. This is just reviewing all rational numbers that we've talked about so far in the last couple of days. Being able to read a word problem, identify an operation, and solve it using fractions and decimals, and knowing how to solve fractions with, or problems with fractions and decimals. So let's look at page 27 and let's look at some of these problems here together. So the first problem says Calvin is in charge of soda in the concession stand at the basketball game. When the concession stand opens, he notices there are 2/3 containers of cola and 1.5 containers of diet soda. How many total containers are in the concession stand? Well, right here, I see it says how many total. Total usually means to add or to multiply. Now it says we have like Coke here and then Diet Coke. Well, it's saying if I've got Coke and Diet Coke, how much total soda do we have? So the question is asking for total. I know I have 2 1/3 canister of Coke. I know I have 1 1/2 canister of Diet Coke, And I know here total either means to add or multiply, but it's looking for how many cans are in the machine, so I know I'm going to add. So in this case, now we would have to come over here and show our work. So 2 1/3 plus 1 1/2. Now I drew a long equal sign because I know I'm going to have to find a common denominator. So whole numbers stay the same no matter what. So if I look at this, a 3 and a 2, I know if I list multiples of 3, 3, 6, 9, 12, and 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 6 is the first one they both have in common. So I know that 3 times 2 is 6, so 1 times 2 is 2. And 2 times 3 is 6, so 1 times 3 is 3. Now I can add them. 2 6 plus 3 6 gives me a total, I'm going to move it over here because I'm out of space, of 5 6. And then 2 wholes plus 1 whole gives me a total of 3 wholes. Therefore, I have a total of 3 5/6 cans of soda. Make sure you put that label. So if I move on and look at question B, this one is very, very similar. It says Calvin's in charge of the soda and the concession stand. When the concession stand opens, he notices there are 2 1/3 cans of cola. During the game, 1 1/2 cans were sold. How many canisters remain? So a couple of things. Sold means you're getting rid of. Remain, how many remain? So that's telling me I'm going to be subtracting. So it says the question is how many remain. So when you do this, you don't have to write complete sentences, just write little notes to yourself. And what's known, I said, I know I have 2 1/3 cans. I know that 1 1/2 sold. So I know I'm going to have to subtract. And again, I'm going to have to find a common denominator. So 2 1/3 minus 1 2/3. I'm sorry. Let's fix that. 1 1/2. So again, whole numbers stay exactly the same. So whole number 2 and a 1 stay. Again, I know my common denominator is 6 because I've got a 3 and a 2, so I know my denominator is going to be 6. And if I look over here, well, 3 times 2 is 6, 1 times 2 is 2, and 2 times 3 is 6, so 1 times 3 is 3. Now, to subtract in this case, I need to take 3 6 away from 2 6. Well, I don't have enough. So just like normal, I would borrow. That becomes a 1. Now I borrowed 1 whole, except 1 whole written as a fraction in this case would be 6 out of 6. Well, I already have 2 6, so 6 6 plus 2 6 make 4 6. So at this point, now I can subtract 4 6, take away 3 6, leaves me with 1 6 left. And 1 whole that I have left minus 1 whole is 0. So how many are left? All that's left is 1 6 of cola. So now at this point, using those keywords that are in the Google Classroom, go through these problems and see if you can figure out, am I add, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? Make sure you go through and do all these practice problems, or a good majority of them as practice. Again, answer keys will be located in the classrooms, so make sure you're double checking your answers. There will be no answer keys for any of the homework pages or any of the graded pages that we're taking for a grade. Those your teacher will check. If you have any questions, please make sure you ask for help. You can ask a partner nearby at your table. You can ask the teacher. Just make sure you're asking. Get started.